The court was silent enough that you could hear the clock tick. Christine Brown sat at the plaintiff's table, her hands clasped together so tightly that her knuckles were white. Across the aisle, Kody's jaw was clenched as his attorney whispered something in his ear, but Kody didn't react. He just stared. Cold. Steady. Like a man had already decided he wasn't here to lose. The judge hadn't even arrived yet, but you could feel it. That quiet storm that only builds when love becomes resentment. The kind of silence that comes before someone says an unspeakable truth. Christine wasn't fighting for property anymore. Not for the money, not for the show, not even for the years she'd invested in attempting to hold together a family that never truly wanted to be whole. She was fighting for her daughter. And somewhere deep down, maybe for herself. The cameras outside had already turned it into a spectacle. Tabloid screaming sister wives war in court. But within these four walls it did not seem like television. It seemed like sadness. Kody's lawyer called it a simple custody fight. But papers Christine filed suggested otherwise. She accused Kody of emotional instability, manipulation and psychological influence harmful to the child. It wasn't just a fight for guardianship, it was an accusation that would ruin his reputation for good. However, Kody wasn't the type to shut up and take it. He had his own evidence. Text pages, voice messages, even witness accounts from people who swore Christine wasn't the mom everyone believed she was. He was ready to destroy her, if that's what it would come to. And as the clerk called the courtroom to order, Christine glanced up, just once, toward the door. For out in the hallway, their daughter was waiting. The little girl both of them vowed they loved more than anything, but who would soon become the prize in a battle that nobody could win. And sometimes the hardest wars aren't fought with guns or fists. They're fought with words, secrets, and the truth you swore you'd never utter out loud. So as the judge finally entered and the courtroom rose to its feet, no one could have possibly known that by the time this trial was over, the Brown family name would never again mean family. If love is war, whose side are you on anyway? Tell me in the comments before the truth begins to unravel. The judge's gavel fell once, sharp, final, ringing off the walls like the sound of something breaking that would never mend. Christine exhaled slowly, her eyes fixed on the polished wood of the table. She wasn't shaking, not anymore. The nervousness had burned away weeks ago, been replaced with something icier, more solid. Survival. Kody was rigid in his chair, his suit too small across the shoulders, his hair slicked back with the precision of a man frantic to be perceived in control. But his eyes betrayed him, red-rimmed, darting, begging for sympathy that wasn't forthcoming. The judge began, voice even but tired. This court will consider the custody case of Christine Brown versus Kody Brown. Both parties claim to be acting in the child's best interest. We will untangle the truth. Christina's attorney, a soft-spoken woman with a spine of steel, stood first. Her opening statement wasn't sensationalized, it didn't have to be. She simply said, "Your Honor, this isn't a case about winning. It's a case about safety." The attention of every eye in the courtroom shifted to Christine. Robin and Janelle sat on opposite sides of the bench behind her, not even looking at one another. Mary wasn't even there. The lawyer continued, "My client endured emotional manipulation in the name of religion for years. Her daughter was made to believe for years that love was obedience, disobedience, sin. Christine left that home to give her child peace. But Mr. Brown refuses to let her go." Kody's lawyer rose to his feet before the sentence even dropped. "Your Honor, this is not a case about safety. It's a case about resentment. A mother using the courts to punish her ex-husband because he chose a life she no longer wanted." A murmur rippled through the spectators. Kody's jaw tightened. Christine didn't move. The judge raised a hand for silence, then nodded. "Enough. We'll hear the evidence. Proceed." And in a flash, the years of family dinners, the prayers shared, the family pictures, all of it became exhibits and testimony. Every word, every smile, every secret available to be scrutinized under oath. The trial had begun, and with it, the slow unraveling of everything that they ever knew as love. The first witness was called, Janelle Brown. The courtroom for an instant appeared to hold its breath. Janelle wasn't just another ex-wife. She was the one who'd always been in the middle, the voice of reason when the storms broke out. But her poise was gone today. Her hands trembled slightly when she was sworn in. her eyes darting back and forth between Kody and Christine as if she still wasn't certain who she was betraying. Christine couldn't look at her. Couldn't. Janelle had told her since they'd last spoken that she didn't want to take sides. Yet here she was taking one. The lawyer approached slowly. Mrs. Brown, can you tell the court what you observed in the Brown household before Christine left? Janelle hesitated, then started talking. It wasn't violent. Not like that. But it was heavy. Like living under pressure all the time. Kody loved his kids, I know that, but his love had rules. If you questioned him, you were wrong. If you disagreed, you were disloyal. Kody's lawyer jumped up. Objection, opinion. Sustained, the judge said quietly. Stick to what you saw. Janelle nodded, her voice growing tighter. I found Christine in tears in the pantry one evening. I asked her what was wrong. She said, he told me God would punish me if I took the kids away. The words cut like a knife. Kody squirmed in his seat, shaking his head slightly, mumbling something to his attorney. Christine still didn't raise her head. Her eyes were damp, but her face was immobile, the face of someone who'd cried enough to last a lifetime. The attorney paused, letting silence fill its space. Mrs. Brown, did you believe her? Janelle swallowed. I didn't want to. But yes, I did. Sometimes the truth doesn't shout. It whispers through the people brave enough to finally speak. Kody stepped ahead. His eyes locked onto Janelle. You don't know, he muttered under his breath. His voice low but audible enough to be caught by the microphones. He was admonished by the judge to keep quiet. But the damage was done. The mask had slipped, and all could see what lay beneath. And that was just the first witness. By the third day of the trial, the courtroom air was thicker. The murmurs had stopped. Even the media weren't squirming anymore. Everyone knew something was coming, something more than testimony. Christina's lawyer stood, her expression stoic. Your Honor, we have new evidence to present. Kody's attorney frowned. We were told all exhibits had been filed. That's correct, the lawyer replied matter-of-factly. This evidence was only just retrieved from Christina's daughter's cell phone. The judge leaned forward. Continue. The bailiff switched off the lights. A small speaker was placed on the desk. Christina's eyes closed for a split second, as though she already knew what was about to be played. A soft voice was heard first. Kody's. Calm at first. Then bitter. You think you can just go and take my child? You think God will forgive that? He told me to hold this family together, and if you break it, Christine, that's on you. The courtroom was quiet. You could hear every breath. Kody's lawyer whispered, it's edited. This is out of context. But the clip wasn't over. Christina's voice was next, trembling. She's afraid, Kody. She doesn't sleep at night anymore. Then silence. And Kody's voice again, low, shaking. Maybe fear is what she needs to learn respect. The playback stopped. Kody sprang to his feet, his chair scraping the floor. That's not real. That's not. The judge's gavel struck twice. Brown calmed down. Christine did not look at him. She could not. Her lawyer did, though, with restrained steel in her voice. This isn't anger, Your Honor. This is about control. That recording was never meant to be heard because control doesn't survive the light. Sometimes the truth doesn't need witnesses. It just needs a voice brave enough to hit record. Kody sat back down, his fists clenched, his eyes dark with something that wasn't just rage. It was fear. For the first time, the court and the world were hearing the version of Kody Brown that nobody was ever supposed to hear. And Christine, she had looked like a woman who had finally stopped being afraid. The morning after, Christine arrived early, but something was different about her. Yesterday's peace was gone. Her lawyer was whispering to her. Papers spread on the table, voices muted but urgent. Whatever composure Christine had walked in with, it was slipping. Kody's lawyer stood to cross-examine. The shift in energy was immediate, crisp, calculated. He wasn't smiling now. Mrs. Brown, he began, you've had plenty to say about your husband's behavior. But isn't it true that weeks before you left, you told a friend you were making plans to remove your daughter from the state, without telling Kody? Christine hesitated. I was scared. I did not know how to tell him. He stepped closer. So you plan to take the child and disappear? No, she whispered. I plan to keep her safe. He held up one page. A printed text message. Your Honor, Exhibit 24. A message from Christine to her sister, 2 months before separation. Quote, "If I have to lie to get her away, I'll do it." The words hit harder than any tantrum. A shock wave ran around the room. Christina's attorney objected, but the judge ruled otherwise. The damage was already made. Kody leaned back, breathing for the first time with ease. His eyes locked with Christina's, not in triumph, but in silent fury. Christine swallowed, her voice trembling. "I said those words out of fear. I didn't mean." Kody's lawyer cut in. "Fear doesn't rule out intent. You accused my client of manipulation, but it seems you had an agenda of your own long before this trial began." Christina's composure broke. For the first time throughout the trial, she seemed less like a warrior, and more like a mother about to lose everything. Even the innocent sometimes have secrets, and a price to pay when truth is revealed in the courtroom. Recess was declared by the judge. Christine sat, face in hands, trying not to lose control of herself as Kody walked by her without a word. The crowd whispered, reporters scribbled, and for the first time, no one knew who to believe anymore. The war had officially turned, and this time no one was innocent. When court resumed after lunch, the mood was changed. Reporters whispered that Christine was about to drop the case. Kody's confidence had returned. His eyes followed her every movement, waiting for her to crack. Then Christina's lawyer stood and spoke softly, "Your Honor, we have one additional witness to call." Kody's lawyer frowned. "Who?" The lawyer was facing the hallway. "We call Aspen Brown." There were gasps in the court. Christina's oldest daughter, the one who had been silent during the whole breakup, was going to testify. Christine froze. "She doesn't need to do this," she whispered, but it was too late. Aspen entered, tall, composed, her face calm but her hands trembling. She looked at her mother, then her father, and chose not to sit near either. The oath was taken. The judge nodded. "You may proceed." Christina's attorney spoke in a hushed tone. "Aspen, can you tell us what home life was like prior to your mother's departure?" Aspen's eyes darted downward. "It depended on the day. Some days Dad was nice. He made us feel loved. Other days, he'd lecture about loyalty and say Mom was weak for doubting him. I didn't have friends over anymore because I never knew which version of him we'd get." Kody's lawyer objected. "Objection. That's subjective." But Aspen went on. "When Mom said she was going to leave, he told her she was breaking God's law. He made me stand in the kitchen and tell her that she was sinning, so she'd feel guilty." Kody's face went pale. "That's not true." The judge's gavel came down on the desk. "Brown, be quiet." The courtroom felt like it might burst from the pressure. Christine was crying now, silent tears she did not even attempt to hide. Aspen faced the judge and said softly, "I love both of my parents. But love shouldn't be scary. Sometimes the bravest voices are the ones that took the longest to use." Kody's lawyer had no further questions to ask. There was nothing left to say. When Aspen was done, Christine reached out and took her hand. For a moment they touched, mother and daughter against the storm. And with that, the tide of the courtroom shifted once more, this time not with evidence but with truth. The courtroom was packed the next morning. Cameras lined the back wall. The headlines were everywhere. Aspen breaks silence. But Kody wasn't shattered. He looked calculated, focused. His lawyer rose to his feet. "Your Honor, in light of the emotional testimony yesterday, my client would like to present new evidence." Christina's lawyer objected at once. "We were not made aware of any additional submissions." The judge sighed. "You may proceed, but tread carefully." The lawyer nodded. "Thank you, Your Honor. This evidence goes directly to the credibility of Mrs. Brown as a parent." Christine stiffened. Her fists gripped the table edge. The lawyer clicked a remote, and an image appeared on the courtroom screen. Christine sitting in a dimly lit restaurant, across from a man who wasn't Kody. A hand rested on hers. A low murmur went through the crowd. Kody didn't move, just stared, jaw tight, eyes glacial. The lawyer spoke unhurriedly. "This photograph was shot 2 months before Mrs. Brown petitioned for custody. The man in the picture, a coworker, is currently under investigation for presenting false testimony in this case. Christine, would you like to comment on your relationship with him?" Christina's breath caught. "He's a friend. Is that what you told your daughter? The lawyer pressed. Christina's attorney objected, too late. The implication had found its target. The lawyer spoke to the judge. Your Honor, my client believes Mrs. Brown intimidated testimony by outside means. This isn't protection. This is vengeance in the guise of motherhood. Christine finally lost her cool. She stood, voice trembling but sharpened. You think dinner with a friend measures up to years of control? You think I did all of this out of spite? You don't know what it's like to wake up every morning wondering who you'll have to be just to be loved. The courtroom was silent. Even the judge paused before he said, Mrs. Brown, please sit. She did, eyes wet, shoulders trembling. Sometimes the truth you keep is the sword they use to attack you with. Kody watched her fall apart, his face expressionless, somewhere between triumph and something that looked like regret. And for the first time, Christine wasn't sure she was fighting to win, or just to survive. The courtroom was quieter than it had been all week. Even the air was weightier, thick with anticipation. Every eye was on Christine and Kody, but no one spoke. Tension was a palpable presence, pressing down on everyone in the courtroom. Then the judge took a brief recess, a timeout before the final round of testimony. Christina's hands shook as she wrestled with the tissue. Kody didn't move. His face was stone, but his eyes showed something deeper, worry. When they returned to session, a surprised voice echoed through the room. It was Mary Brown stepping out of the background. She hadn't uttered a peep in court until now. I need to say something, she said, her voice low but even. The judge nodded. Go ahead. Mary first gazed at Kody. I lied when I said I was impartial. I've been trying to shield him and myself. But the truth is, I know what he has done, and I can no longer be quiet. There were gasps in the courtroom. Christina's jaw tightened. Kody's eyes widened. A look of fear crossed his face. Mary continued, he manipulated each of us, not just Christine. He controlled the house through guilt, through fear. I know. I lived it. And I've helped him cover it up. I'm done. Silence. Her confession dropped like a hammer. Every reporter, every onlooker, every Brown family member accepted the admission in stunned incredulity. Christina's lawyer leaned forward. Mary, can you give specific instances? Mary nodded, shaking hands. There are recordings, messages, moments you wouldn't believe unless you heard them yourself. Moments when he used religion to justify control. Moments he told us our loyalty was a test. Kody's lawyer jumped up to object, but the judge quieted him. She is testifying voluntarily. Continue. Christine's eyes met Mary's across the aisle. No words were exchanged, but a silent understanding passed between them. For the first time, Christine felt the tide turning in her favor. But she also realized how much betrayal had come from someone she once considered family. Sometimes the one who's been quiet all along is the one whose truth changes everything. The gavel struck. The courtroom murmured with whispers, yet one thing was clear to all. The final decision was no longer solely about custody. It was about who was worthy of justice, and who had lost the right to claim innocence. The courtroom buzzed, yet hushed. Every spectator, every reporter, every relative leaned forward, holding its collective breath. The final testimonies concluded, the evidence naked, the family's secrets exposed like bones with the flesh torn off. Christine held herself upright, shoulders squared, hands clasped in her lap. She had cried, pleaded, and suffered accusations that stung more than any courthouse gavel could descend. Her eyes flicked to Kody, who sat rigid, jaw tight, face expressionless. The judge shoved his glasses higher, glancing around the room. After due consideration of all testimony, evidence, and the best interests of the child, this court renders its decision. There was a silence. You could hear a pin drop. In this instance, the judge continued, custody is granted primarily to the mother, Christine Brown. Visitation rights are granted to the father under supervised conditions pending further evaluation of emotional stability. Further, the court strongly recommends family counseling to all concerned. The gavel struck. Twice. Christine felt the weight lift. A mix of relief and fatigue crashing over her. She glanced at her daughter, who was silently struggling to hold back tears. Aspen's little hand reached out to hers, and for the first time in months, they shared a moment of pure connection. Kody's face was stoic, yet his eyes told a different story: frustration, disappointment, and a hint of guilt. He lowered his head, the realization dropping into place that control had finally slipped through his fingers. Mary, silently sitting, released a breath she wasn't aware she had been holding. She had spoken the truth, and that truth had changed the course of the trial. Christina's attorney whispered, "You did it. You fought for her." Christine nodded, crying not just for winning but for surviving. Winning isn't always about beating someone else, sometimes it's reclaiming your own life. As the courtroom began to empty, tension lingered, like an echo of every secret, betrayal, and confession that had been heard. So tell me, would you have made this stand if you were in Christina's position? Or would fear have kept you quiet? Post a comment and tell me whose side you'd be on in a battle where love and loyalty conflict. There was so much more to the Brown family's story, but today justice had a voice, and it was the voice of the one who had at last found the strength to speak.